Hello everyone, I am Storyteller. Thank you for visiting this peaceful place. I know you are looking for something soothing to help you fall asleep, and I am here to accompany you. If you enjoy, please give me a like and subscribe, and let me know where you are from. Thank you. Gorephans. Mummy and Daddy left me. They went away and left me on my own in this scary place with sharp and spiky stones that stab my feet. I don't want to cry on this beach, if it is a beach, because the only sound is that of pebbles crunching beneath my toes, and my voice sounds weird, like an echo. There's nothing to see except the wispy gray fog that folds around me. It feels like I'm by the sea because of the stones and that disgusting, salty smell. But I can't hear any waves or people splashing. If it is the seaside, a boring seaside with a stony beach, I don't know how I got here. I remember being with Mummy and Daddy. We went for a picnic and stopped at the toy store. Daddy bought me a brand new cat plush, Miss Mittens. At least she's here to keep me company. If I didn't have her, I think I would really cry. Not because of the stones, or the fog, or the smell, but because Mummy and Daddy left me. Why would they bring me here? Why would they go home without me? When are they coming back? I don't understand. The next day, Mummy and Daddy left me, and I don't know where they are. I'm crying now, because I've been lost on this beach for so long. And when I see the woman float out of the fog with a smile and a big fluffy blanket, I know she'll help. I know, Tilly. I'm sorry I'm late. It took me some time to locate you. How do you know my name? I ask the woman as she bundles me in her blanket. I've been in my nightdress on this seaside with no sea, and the fog has been getting frosty, so it's nice to be wrapped in something warm. Did Mummy and Daddy send you? Not exactly, Tilly. Mummy and Daddy are sorry they couldn't get to you themselves, but I'm here now, and I'll take care of you. Come along. Let's get you someplace safe. Home? My home, Tilly. For a while. Don't worry. There are other girls like you there. I'm sure you'll make friends. And you can rest while we figure this out. The woman in the old-fashioned dress that has lacy trim around the collar puts her arm around me, and we start to walk back the way she came, stones crunching and crumbling beneath her fancy boots and my frozen toes. I have lots of questions, but I don't know which to ask first, so I say nothing and think about what she said. New home? Other girls? Figure this out? My face feels funny, I say, and my eyelids grow heavy. Your face is beautiful, the woman answers, but I don't reply. Another day, Mummy and Daddy left me, and the house went on fire. That's what Mabel Montgomery is trying to say, in a roundabout way, like I'm a baby. But I know she's wrong. There's no way Mummy and Daddy would leave me alone. And there's no way our house would go on fire because it's a new house with fire alarms and everything. And there's no way I died because I'm sitting in an armchair in an office, wearing a stiff blue dress that was laid out for me when I woke up, in a bed with tall posts and a lace canopy. I don't know why she's doing this. I thought she was nice when she brought me here, to this mansion with dozens of rooms and maids and girls. But now I think she might be trying to kidnap me. Maybe she did that to the others. I haven't had a chance to talk to anyone yet, because I just got up today after sleeping for a really long time. But sleeping for a long time is not the same as dying. I know it's hard, the woman with the silver hair says. You need time, but I'm here for you. We will work together to get you through this. And then, when you're ready, we'll find someone nice to take care of you. She places a hand on my shoulder and smiles, but I don't trust her. Not anymore, because it's a lie. This manor, the beach, the fog, a lie, or a dream, or a nightmare. What else can explain the face staring back at me from the mirror as Mabel leads me from her office? The horrible, burnt face of a monster that couldn't be me, because I didn't die in a fire. Yet another day. You're Tilly, right? I'm Jessica. I hope you're doing okay. I know it's a lot to take in, finding yourself here. I know it hurts. A lot. But you'll survive. It's easy for her to say. The teenager in the dress that's the same style as mine, except green. Her face isn't scarred and disgusting. Her hands aren't marbled and shiny. She has long blonde hair like I did. She's pretty. I heard what happened. It must have been so scary. I know how scared I was when I was drowning, but I can't imagine what it must have been like, too. She tries to be brave and look at my face while she talks, but the look of pity in her eyes is worse than the look of disgust I see in others, and I hate it. I don't remember, all right? Can you go away? I want to be on my own. Sure. I just thought you might want to talk. I know it isn't easy coming to terms with things. We've all been through it. You'll see a lot of girls like you, keeping to themselves. You'll see girls with injuries and wounds they're not ready to let go of. You'll see others like me. But none of us had it easy. So take your time. It will get better, I promise. I said, leave me alone. I surprise myself by shouting. I hop up from the window seat, abandoning my view of the fog, and push the girl away before storming across the polished wooden floorboards and racing up the staircase to the bedrooms. Bedrooms occupied by girls, aged 6 to 18. Girls I don't want to talk to. Girls I can't even look at. Some of them have missing limbs. Some of them have cuts and horrible wounds. Some of them have holes. But the hardest ones to look at are the ones like Jessica, who look complete, like nothing happened, because my body is burnt and olay from a fire, and it's not fair. The 5th day. or more. Hey, I'm Carly. Seen you around, but figured you wouldn't want to talk yet. Enjoying Miss Mabel Montgomery's orphanage for late lamented lassies? Or, as I call it, the Gorephanage. If you're lonely, you can move in with me. I won't bug you about adapting, and I don't want to know your tragic past. I have a spare bunk since my friend Delilah sold out and got adopted. The traitor. I've seen this girl around too, sulking and being mean to the maids. She's another damaged girl, like me. She has a gash on her neck, one that seems to laugh as she speaks, and purple bruises on her legs and arms, which are visible because she isn't wearing a dress. She's got jeans shorts on and a t-shirt with a picture of Taylor Swift, both of them covered in reddish-brown stains. I guess that's what she was wearing when she got here. I wish I'd kept my night dress and hadn't sold out. Maybe, I reply, which is a surprise. I haven't spoken to anyone in days, though plenty have tried to talk to me. Mabel, the maids, various girls, mostly the complete ones, though some of the gruesome ones too. I wasn't in the mood, but there's something about this freckle-faced girl with the ponytail and chipped front tooth that makes me feel comfortable. Have you been here long? Long enough to know how to get on Miss Mabel's tits and how to scare the shit out of the ghost mothers. Want to come to my room? We can hatch some devious plans. Carly is about my age, but she uses lots of grown-up words, and it makes me nervous, but also excited. I never had a friend like her, and she isn't looking at me funny like the others, even the ones with missing limbs. So I nod and smile for the first time in ages. Leaving my room, I look over the banister down into the foyer of the mansion. Miss Montgomery is there with Jessica, who hasn't spoken to me since I told her to go away. She's holding the hand of a person I haven't seen before, a tall, pale stick of a woman in a tweed outfit. Miss Montgomery opens the door, and wisps of fog sneak in as Jessica looks up and waves. I don't wave back. I see the skinny woman follow Jessica's gaze and gasp as her eyes fall on me. Shocked by my appearance, I stick my tongue out and waggle my hands alongside my crusty face, then hurry after Carly, avoiding Mabel's disappointed look. A later day, Mabel tells me Carly is a rebellious girl who's struggling to accept her own passing, so it would be better if I talked to someone else, so I can process and come to terms. Well, what if I don't want to process how my parents left me to die? What if I don't want to come to terms with being burnt alive and looking like a monster? Carly says, I don't have to. Carly says, I can wear my scars like a badge of honor. And if Mabel and her maids and the ghost mothers who come to replace the kids they left behind in the real world don't like it, then tough. Mothers who leave their children are the worst, even if they do it by dying. Why would I want a new mother anyway? A dead one? They don't care about me. They can't even look at me. Every time one visits, I see how they turn away from me and Carly, and Lucinda, and Selena, and Flair. Because we're ugly, burnt or cut, or missing important pieces. We're Gorephans, and nobody wants a Gorephan, even if they might say they do. Fake smiles, telling me I'm beautiful, telling me my soul is beautiful. I don't give a shit about my soul. I want my face. That's why it's fun when Carly tricks them, waits till they get close, then spurts a fountain of blood from the gash on her neck. So funny seeing them jump. That's why I let her teach me how to summon my own death echo, so I can scare the shit out of ghost mothers by bursting into flames. It gets rid of them pretty fast, and it gets on Miss Montgomery's tits, and I get to spend more time with the Gorephans, the ones that didn't sell out, like Bambi, who took the rope marks off her neck the other day and went away. A traitor, but she'll see. When she gets abandoned again, she'll see it's a waste of time trusting a mother. A bad day. Carly isn't talking. I think she's depressed. Mabel brought a bunch of ghost mothers to the Gorephanage the other day and assembled us girls to be inspected. Not that she used that word. She said there had been an influx of parents to the beach due to a global pandemic, and it was an opportunity to place a few girls. But Carly said we were just being inspected, and of course, it was only girls with no obvious injuries who got adopted. Sure, a few mothers tried to talk to me and pretended they didn't notice my scars, but I knew they were just trying to make me feel better. Why would they pick me when they could have a complete? Why would they want a girl with a face like burnt toast? Carly lost it after the 4th or 5th mother tried to hug her. She threw her head back and sprayed the biggest fountain of blood I've ever seen. It went everywhere, all over the mothers and the girls and Mabel and the maids and the floor. I didn't think it was ever going to stop. I couldn't stop laughing. Mabel had to send the mothers away, and that's when stupid Lila pushed Carly, telling her she was a selfish a-hole for ruining things for everyone else. How dare she? Why is it okay for completes to get adopted, but not Gorephans? That's not fair. I told Carly that, but she was upset and didn't want to talk. She went to the window seat to stare into the fog. She's been there for days, and I miss her. I'm lonely again. I hate it. I want to go home. The worst day. Carly's missing. Have you seen her? Carly is gone from the window seat. I checked everywhere. The kitchen, the pantry, Lucinda and Flair's rooms, the lounge. But I can't find her. and nobody knows where she is. So I burst into Mabel's office, even though I'm not supposed to when the door's shut. Mabel is behind her desk, talking to a woman and girl who have their backs to me. A woman in jeans and a jumper, and a girl with long brown hair in an ivory dress with lace trim. One of Mabel's dresses, though I haven't seen it before. Tilly, I'm busy. Can you go to your room and wait? I'll talk to you when I finish here. The way she says it makes me think she knows something. I hesitate because I want to know what it is now. But the mother starts to turn, and I don't want to be looked at with disgust, so I back out of the room. Until the girl in the ivory dress turns, and I recognize her freckles and chipped tooth. With her hair down, and without her wound, Carly looks like a different person. A nice girl. A pretty girl. Complete. Tilly, she says, slumping her shoulders. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. I don't want to hear it. She's a sellout. A traitor. Like Delilah and Bambi and Selena. Another one who's going to leave me. And this time, I can't stop my tears. It was my time, and I slam the office door shut and run upstairs. Day, whatever. Mabel talks and talks, but I don't hear. Ghost mothers visit, but I stay in bed. Flair and Lucinda try to cheer me up with their death echoes. Flair pops off her head and juggles with it, while Lucinda pulls out her guts and ties them in the shape of a dog. I don't care. Mummy and Daddy left me. Carly left me. Even Miss Mittens disappeared. Why does nobody want me? Why do I exist? I want to die, but I'm already dead. I'm dead. I am dead. A much later day. No, I don't want to stay here. I want to go home. Miss Montgomery's door slams back against the wall, startling me from my fog watching and bringing my eyes to the 6 or 7-year-old girl who runs from the office to the large double doors of the manor. I want my mom. Let me out. 2 maids intercept the girl, whose long blonde hair is bloody and matted around a hole in her head that shows her brain, whose dungarees and shirt are torn and stained. Go away. Don't touch me. Mabel is in her doorway, arms crossed, watching. Just another day at the office. Where's my mom? What did you do to her? The girl lashes out and knocks a vase off a tall wooden table. Leave me alone. The girl pushes a maid away roughly. Where's my mom? I want her. The girl escapes the second maid, not looking where she's going, runs into me before I can step aside. She looks up, angry, spittle flying from her lips. When she sees I'm just a girl, her expression changes. Have you seen my mom? Do you live here? Fear on her face now, terror in her eyes. Temporarily, I reply, and drop down on one knee. It's a place to be, while we wait. For what? To go home? Sort of. What's your name? Alice. Okay, Alice. I know you're confused, and it will be hard for you to understand why you're here, but it's a safe place. It's okay to be angry, but you can make friends and those friends will help you come to terms with shut up, the fear gone, the anger back. She thinks I'm another of them because I sound like Mabel. Mom, where are you? She breaks away from me, runs to the staircase and up. The other girls standing at the top, drawn by the commotion. She sees Lucinda and Rebecca with her face of glass shards and screams, drops to the floor, covers her head. A maid secures her, bundles her up, and carries her crying the rest of the way to a room. A bed, a dress. I realize Alice looked me in the eye when I was talking. She didn't flinch or try to get away. I stand and take a step to a wall-mounted mirror. There, staring back at me, is Tilly. Scars remain, but not as monstrous as before. My arms and hands remain pink and shiny, but I recognize myself. In the reflection, Mabel smiles as she closes her door. I still have a long way to go, but maybe, like Jessica said, I will survive, and so will Alice. Gertrude Inn. The span of my childhood could be separated into two categories: knowing and not knowing. In fact, everyone in my family, even the adults, could split similarly. Those who knew and those who didn't. Regardless of which category you fell into, everyone knew Grandma had certain proclivities. It was an unspoken thing, yet you felt how heavily it threaded into every conversation and side comment at family gatherings. No one really talked about it, not outright, but it was always there, lingering between the lines. The not knowing part of my childhood wasn't all blissful ignorance. Like the not knowing adults, there were always hints of restlessness whenever we visited Grandma's house of mirrors. That's what everyone called it, though to the public, it was Gertrude Inn, a quaint 3-story, 100-year-old 10-bedroom house operating as a bed and breakfast, run by someone in my family since its inception. Despite how often she smiled, Grandma had this way of putting the house on edge. In a way, the inn was a reflection of her, aged, unique, beautiful, but full of secrets. Everyone walked on eggshells around her, though I'd never witnessed her so much as raise her voice. She smiled warmly, yet her eyes held a cold indifference that felt like she was seeing right through you, guts and all. Gertrude Inn sat in darkness during the day, supposedly to save on electricity. One single window and a shining beam of light brightened the winding corridors on each of the second and third floors. Those single sun rays felt so lively compared to all the shadows, with dust particles dancing in the warmth. My cousins used to make a game of only trying to walk in the sun, lest your legs get snatched by some faceless monster in the dark. There was some speculation that Gertrude Inn was haunted. Creaking floors and dim lighting aside, people reported strange sounds at all hours. Some guests even claimed to see ghosts. The inn had its own cult following amongst supernatural enthusiasts who shared photos of specter light orbs and ghostly apparitions of small girls and old ladies online, because the old lady ghosts looked eerily similar to Grandma. It was widely accepted that it must have been the ghost of a woman in our family tree. But the thing that really made Gertrude Inn feel like a horror movie set was the mirrors. My great-grandfather built them, and over the last 100 years, the walls became filled, nearly every clean inch coated in aluminum reflection. That single sun ray from those lone windows on each floor bounced about, decorating the halls in a disorienting, masking glow. Around the time when I transitioned from not knowing to knowing, I gained a unique fascination with the mirrors. My cousins, aunts, and uncles liked to pretend they didn't exist. When we were delegated to help out around the inn, I'd watch the others stalk the halls ahead of me, carrying buckets of cleaning supplies and fresh sheets, never looking from left to right at the mirrors, gazes fastened directly ahead. But I couldn't help but look back and forth, short as I was, fascinated by the different heights and styles of the framed mirrors around me, and how different and distorted they made me look, my face contorting and reshaping with each step. I liked to take my time in each bedroom when I cleaned, those walls equally covered in mirrors, making faces at myself and imagining someone else staring back at me. The year after Grandpa died, Grandma became more reclusive. One evening, my parents sent me to track her down, as she'd been missing since lunch, and it was long past dinner. Up to the 3rd floor, past the guest rooms, the further along I crept, the more the walls narrowed. A single sconce poorly illuminated the dark at each turn, but that one small light bounced off the mirrors, casting a dizzying glimmer. My reflection echoed all the way down the hallway, thousands of me watching back. Finally, I approached her room, and my hand shook as it clasped the vintage crystal doorknob, which spun loosely like it needed a repair, then pushed my way in. Her bed was made, complete with a crocheted white doily adorning an old quilt, another draped over a little red table, and a lit desk lamp that glowed beneath the stained glass lampshade. A soft humming caught my attention, but I couldn't tell where the sound was coming from. She wasn't anywhere in the tiny bedroom. I circled the space, trying to locate the source. The humming grew louder as I neared the armoire. I wouldn't consider myself a brave kid, but my curiosity was piqued, and no matter how hard my little heart rattled in my chest, or how sweaty my shaky hands felt, I pressed my ear to the closet door and listened. I gripped the metal handle, and the moment the door cracked open, Grandma's humming grew louder. Shoving dresses and shirts on coat hangers to the side, I stepped through a hole at the back of the closet "Grandma?" I called out. The humming paused, then picked up again. I kept climbing, stepping over mounds of boots and boxes, until I emerged into the brightest lit room in the house, and there were mirrors everywhere. "Hello, darling Mercy." Grandma gestured for me to join her, not the least bit surprised to see me. "What is all this?" I looked around in wonder at all the beautiful, ornate mirrors, some framed in elaborate gold filigree, some in thick, knotted wood. Grandma stood in front of 3 large glass panels, resting on a massive, open-backed easel. Paintbrush in hand, she elbowed me playfully. "How'd you find me, little bug? Is this how you make mirrors?" I looked around in wonder. Grandma didn't answer. Her humming resumed, as did her painting. I glanced down at the table and saw 3 identical empty frames, all silver, with intricate faces painted along the edges. The faces resembled cherubs, but their teeth looked more like fangs. Smiles distorted. I looked back at the glass she was painting and noticed something odd. "Grandma, how come you can see through these mirrors?" Her humming continued as she painted a silver metallic sheen on the glass. On one side, the silver allowed your reflection to stare back, but on the other, the glass was see-through, like a window. I wasn't a mirror expert, not like Grandma or my great-grandpa, but I broke a mirror when I was cleaning once, and I remember the backside being dark. You couldn't see through it like you could these. Grandma kept humming, and I was hungry, and that room creeped me out. So I shrugged and waved goodbye, reminding her my mom was looking for her. I dismissed the strange room, letting it remain tucked away in the recesses of my memory. Then, one weekend, I got assigned to room cleaning. We all took turns helping out at the inn, but it was more of a chore as I got older. The secrets of the old house held less interest for me. That is until I took a bottle of Windex into a room on the 2nd floor, spraying down one of the many mirrors, and I recognized the silver metal frame, intricately painted cherubs with fang-like teeth and distorted smiles staring back at me. The one-way mirrors. I tried to pull the mirror off the wall, to look behind it, but was surprised to find it securely stuck. No matter how hard I tried to pull it off, it wouldn't budge. A cold chill ran down my spine as I recalled the secret room. That was when I realized there were 2 kinds of people in this family: those who knew and those who didn't. Grandma passed away a couple of years later, but still, I kept her secrets. My family argued about who would take care of the inn. It had been in our family for so long, no one wanted to give it up. But no one wanted to take responsibility for it either. Finally, they came to a compromise and decided to share the duties. So, one of our families would move into the inn each season to take care of the guests and keep Gertrude Inn up and running until someone stepped up and decided to take over the House of Mirrors. It was summer, when it was our turn. Mom and Dad claimed a bedroom on the first floor, and though no one wanted to sleep in Grandma's old room, I claimed it greedily. Gertrude Inn had a presence, a sort of sentient awareness, like you could feel her breathing. She tensed and held her breath, and so did I when I crept into the armoire that first night. I palmed the back of the old wardrobe, my hands sweaty as I searched for the secret knob. When I entered Grandma's secret room, it was pitch black. I stumbled around in the dark, seeking out the hanging lamps I remembered briefly from my only previous visit. But in my search, as my hands felt along the walls, I found another doorknob. My heart racing, I slowly twisted the tiny metal handle, the creaking sound like a thunderclap, considering the height of my nerves. My foot padded out ahead, testing the floor, and as both hands pressed against the narrow walls, I discovered a light switch. Though the light cast was dim, like everything else at Gertrude Inn, it was enough. Slowly, I stumbled into the corridor, merely 3 feet wide, between the bedrooms, floors creaking loudly beneath my bare feet. And then I watched in horror through the backs of the mirrors as guests slept the night away. I held every gasp and breath as my brain tried desperately to comprehend what I saw. A shriek tore out of my throat when I came upon a couple having sex, and the man stopped mid-thrust to whisper, "Did you hear that?" to his partner. My hand clasped over my mouth, terrified they'd know I was there, know what hid behind the mirrors. I turned around and ran back to the secret room. I turned off the light, banged my knee against a table in my rush to escape, and when I returned to my new bedroom, I stared at the armoire in screaming silence until the sun came up. It took hours to calm my racing heart, and in that time, I thought back to every interaction I'd ever had with my grandma. All the puzzle pieces and bits of memory I tucked away, slowly clicking into place. Walking over to a mirror, I stared back at my reflection until I no longer felt scared or uncomfortable. The following morning at breakfast, I watched my parents, not knowing, move around the kitchen in blissful ignorance, shaking cereal into bowls and discussing their days over morning coffee. "Mercy, you feeling okay?" Mom placed the back of her hand over my forehead, frowning. I cleared my throat. "Yeah, I'm good. Must have been a little weird to sleep in Grandma's room last night. No one would blame you if you decided to stay in another room. We can rework that one into a guest room." "No." Their eyes widen at my reaction. "Sorry. No, I'm good. Actually, it made me feel closer to her. And, you know, I was thinking, she showed me once how to make the mirrors. I think I'd like to take it over." Learn the family business. I shrugged and dug my spoon into the milky cereal, ignoring my parents' tight smiles. They don't want me to become like Grandma, even if they don't know precisely why. What I do know is that Gertrude Inn breathes for me, and I'll keep her secrets, maybe make a few of my own. Remake. Chelsea Bonifade was a dirty blonde, hazel-eyed, nervous wreck. There was no Shakespearean way to put it. A sneeze had the girl run for cover, like a live grenade was tossed in her direction. She found solace in books, and yet she would see a library as too crowded for her comfort. If being an introvert could be mathematically cubed in real life, it would be her. A hall of mirrors stood before her, each one illuminated by a light inserted into the ceiling. At the behest of her date, promising that this would help with her anxiety and nervousness, she walked through the doorway and started her navigation, reflecting on not just the images before her, but on her memories of the past few weeks. For some reason, Tony Palmer had chosen her over all the other girls. Perhaps their outdoorsy demeanors put him off, given that they would exuberantly throw themselves onto any handsome boy with a large sum of money attached to his family's name. Or it could just be a personal preference. Chelsea never saw herself vainly, plainly applying a basic touch of makeup upon her visage before leaving her home to traverse the routine grounds of the school. It was during a day of taking her lunch out to the grounds that she actually bumped into Tony, her lunch meeting his shirt and adding more starch to it than what had been previously applied. He laughed the event off, but Chelsea was surprisingly insistent on washing out her mess. If anyone else found out about this at school, she couldn't bear to show her face around anymore. As for Tony, he had been with her for almost a month, exercising the second most important virtue of any relationship, which is patience, even when she was ready to give up on the relationship. He would counsel her, asking her to give it a little more time. There must be a way for them to connect. Somehow, he told her, he had to bring out that more outgoing part of Chelsea. A carnival arrived in town during the fall, giving an opportunity to both. Chelsea never went to any event and hesitated in reluctance, but Tony insisted, pursuing this issue with the reason being that this could change her. Soon, she said yes. Tony meant well, she thought, as she stepped between the frames, and after gently bumping into a glass wall and gasping, she felt around and found an empty space on her left, which she turned and followed. As more of her reflections popped up, her heart started beating faster. It wasn't because of this place. She remembered that she was shown the entrance and exit, with a map shown by Tony so as not to panic. No, it was because of Tony. She felt better around him. Was this love? Another glass wall, this time with the empty space on the right. She turned. "He's cute." It was barely a whisper, yet it prevailed in this lonely place. Chelsea stopped and slowly turned. All she saw was her reflection, its back to her, with its head turned to look behind it at her. She breathed in relief and continued walking forward, believing that maybe it was just a thought that she echoed out loud. This was a shorter hallway with a longer glass wall peering into darkness, while 3 panes of mirrors had 3 Chelseas following the original to the next turn. Another left, and as she was rounding the corner, she noticed that one of the reflections delayed. She came back, all 3 reflections now keeping pace with her, yet the third one down seemed slower than the rest. It almost acted reluctant. Chelsea shook her head, the images mimicking her action, yet the third one delayed again when the action ceased. She moved away from this image and headed left. No glass walls with black backgrounds were in this section, only more mirrors. This time, there were 2 openings flanking a reflective wall, made larger than the other mirrors via an upward slope in the ceiling, with a cross-reeded pattern like that found in shower enclosures etched across its face. As she drew closer to it, the space opened up in a faceted half-octagon shape, like prongs of a tuning fork that stabbed into their respective openings. 4 more reflections came into view, each one distorted by a warpage made underneath the reflective coating. One was short and seemed to jump from left to right. One was tall with a small head. One appeared to be getting bigger and wider. And one looked, well, like a normal reflection. Chelsea was curious as to what the image in the cross-reeded patterned mirror looked like. "I'm scared." There was that whisper again. Chelsea held her hand to her mouth. "I feel so exposed." Another one! She tightened her grip upon her lips. "This is stupid." Each of these voices, they sounded familiar. They sounded like the same person. It was her voice. Her mouth was starting to scream in pain, while a whine from within was blocked by the enclosing of her own jaw, aided by the vice grip of her hands. Despite this, it wasn't loud enough to drown out what she discerned as humming. She had not hummed since she was a child. Her eyes darted to the reflections, hoping that it was all just some elaborate prank, that there were other people in this place. At the same time, she hoped that no one else was here, as she didn't want to be seen like this. When she examined these facsimiles, one by one, they moved with her in almost all aspects save one. Their heads remained focused on her. Each one moved their own lips and gave a testimony, starting with the small moving reflection, seconded by the tall reflection with the small head, and nearing conclusion with the growing reflection. "I want to be brave. He can't see me like this. Damn it, what the hell is wrong with me?" That left the fourth one. the humming image. Chelsea slowly advanced on it, the humming increasing in volume. She was in front of this mirror, the reflection copying her every move down to the last muscle twitch. The sound it gave off reverberated not just upon the glass, but it was bouncing off of Chelsea's own body in synesthesia. It felt numbing, even comfortable, and then it stopped. Pain shot through Chelsea, and she clutched her side and her chest. She collapsed upon her knees, staring at the shoes of the humming image. It was still standing, looking down at her from some flat dimension. The humming came back, and the pain started to rescind. She stood back up and lifted her hand to brush away her hair. The humming image copied her movement, but when she lowered her hand back down, it kept its arm up and gave her a wave with scraggly fingers. Her nerve was failing, and she backed away. The humming lessened with the distance, but the rest of the voices increased as she retreated to the center. Chelsea felt herself bump into the cross-reeded reflection, and the voices quieted as suddenly as they had started, including the humming. She slowly pivoted, taking in the new reflection barely conceived by the cross-reed pattern. She could make out the dirty blonde follicles, the pale skin, the lack of clothes. She peered closer, placing her hands upon the glass. The distortion did the same, and she noticed that it appeared to hover above her, despite its fingers touching exactly where hers resided. There were its hazel eyes, looking upon her. There was its mouth, opened slightly like hers. Both were frozen in place, the distortion just barely a foot above her level. Condensation started to build before them, getting heavier until Chelsea could no longer see the distortion's face. She leaned closer, with the condensation spreading downwards as well as sideways. The distortion also leaned closer, seeming to plant its head almost directly on the glass. The condensation started to gather droplets, falling down the mirror in streaks. She could have sworn that she heard crying. The distortion reared back in an instant and slammed its face against the glass. Chelsea bounced back in fright. The distortion repeated the action again and again, moving faster with each strike. The condensation, once appearing white as a fog, was now turning red, just like the thing's face and hair as it struck once more, the heavy glass shaking under each impact. Chelsea cried out and ran, taking the left opening as a cracking sound emanated behind her. More mirrors, more distortions, left, right, blackened glass, opening, and Chelsea clutching her chest once more as that pain returned. "Where's the end?" she called out. "Tony, someone please." Now her head started to throb as tears streamed down her own face. The room seemed to spin. Nausea was seizing her, and she braced herself. Somewhere, close by, she could smell something familiar. Cotton candy, caramel apples, the moisture of a cooling atmosphere. She was close. She knew it. She felt against the mirrors, the twisted apparitions also reaching back for her. Another left, and she finally saw it. Just around the last corner, the exit was revealed perpendicular to the last mirror. Something dripped past her right eye and hit the floor. She took it as a tear and moved closer to the final stretch. Another sound of dripping liquid was heard near her left side, followed by another and another. And she looked down, illuminated by the last 3 lights before the exit. There was a growing dark splotch on the floor. She looked up, being greeted only by the dark gray ceiling and the final mirror. More drips. Confused, she brushed her hand through her hair, feeling something wet upon her scalp. She pulled her hand back before her eyes. Red. Blood? She sniffed it. But there was no metallic aroma. In fact, it smelled nice, like freshly shampooed hair. She felt around her head again. More red. This made no sense. She turned to the final mirror. The sight of her blonde hair, broken in so many places, with splotches of red, ramped up the already rapid drumming of her heart. What's worse was that these splotches appeared to be growing from around her head to the bulbs and tips, spreading even to the front. She reached up and grabbed her bangs, her morphing reflection doing the same. Pulling her hair close to her eye, she could see that it was still dirty blonde. The reflection watched her panicked state with intrigue, releasing its reddening hair as she released hers. Her panic drained from her in that moment, a strange peace starting to seize her as the reflection smiled confidently. The pain was gone. The fear was shrinking. A coolness surrounded her, and she stepped back, the reflection mirroring her movements. She turned to look at her exit, just as this strange doppelganger looked out hers. They exchanged a glance one last time. Then they both moved to the threshold. Satchly. Fainbode walked out of the hall of mirrors, meeting Tony on the grass and kissing him on the lips. He pulled away, surprised at the sudden change in this young woman. "Hey babe, did you change your hair in the halls?" She smiled at him and caressed her auburn locks. "Yep. And then some. Every last drop." I enter Red Square from the south side. It's late. There's no one else around. My footfalls echo across the bricks. Then I spot him, a slender figure beneath one of the cherry trees outside Drake Hall. Silvery white hair pulled back in a ponytail. Black gloves, combat boots, a wool trench coat, the preferred attire of all psychopaths. I reach into my purse. In the next instant, he is standing right beside me. "Excuse me, miss." I pepper spray him in the face. He takes it stoically, with little more than a wince. I empty the entire can, but he just stands there, squinching like it's nothing but tepid water. Then he wipes his obsidian eyes clean with his gloved fingertips. I suppose I deserve that. I forget how fast we seem to you. Forgive me. I mean no harm. I will scream. You're Anika Chande, yes? From the physics department? Doctor, I say by reflex, sounding breathless. Who are you? Or what? Dr. Chande, forgive me, he repeats, extending a hand. My name is Sasha Volkov. I've read your books and all the papers you've published. Your work with photons is nothing short of brilliant. No pun intended. Thank you, I say flatly. I don't believe in auras, but if I did, his would be ice cold. I decline his handshake. I don't want my blood to crystallize in my veins. I'm hoping you will help me, he continues. You are perhaps the only one who can. I don't think so. His pencil-thin eyebrows pin together. You don't understand. No, you don't understand. You don't warp 15 yards across a plaza in the blink of an eye, demonstrate a superhuman immunity to capsaicin, and then ask for a favor. I see you're sporting a nice pair of fangs as well. That's very cute. Am I being punked? No, ma'am. He pulls a handkerchief out of his coat and mops his face with it. Although I have been told I look like Slavic Ashton Kutcher, I'm calling the campus police. Please, hear me out. Look, I'll show you. He walks into a beam of moonlight and vanishes. Not entirely. His outfit is still visible, but there's no one inside it. I start to deliver on my promise to scream, but the sound catches in my throat. The ludicrousness of the sight, the sheer improbability. I must be suffering a psychotic break from the stress of finals, or the sushi I had for lunch is causing hallucinations, makes me scoff and start laughing instead. Very impressive. Bravo. You see, the trench coat says, gloves raised in a gesture of helplessness. Somewhere along the way, our species developed this ability or disability, depending on your point of view, to disappear under direct light. That's why we're nocturnal. You might assume this gives us a natural predatory advantage, but it's actually incredibly frustrating. Imagine trying to eat a sandwich without being able to see your hands. And it's painful. The stronger the light, the more intense the discomfort. Is that why you live in Seattle? I snort. Because the sun is never out? Yes, exactly. Makes sense. I have a hunch. There may be some sort of interference at the quantum level. between our body's atoms and solar photons. That's why we have no reflection and can't be captured on film. But the human mind can't abide the irrationality, so by rote, it forms a composite to make us appear whole. He returns to the shadows and rematerializes. A fancy illusion, just smoke and mirrors. Nothing to see here. No need for an anchor to drop into my stomach, or the hairs on the back of my neck to stand up. Nature had to find some way of keeping us in check, or we would have rendered you extinct by now. What do you want? I ask, wishing my voice didn't make me sound so fragile, so human. There was an article about you in the school newsletter recently, thanks to a generous donation from someone who wished to remain anonymous. Your lab was able to get a new quantum camera and an entangled photon detector. Volkov grins, his cobra-like fangs glistening even in the dark. I am that mysterious benefactor, and I want you to take my picture. Please stop messing with me. This really isn't funny at all. I'm quite serious, actually. We use simple objects for quantum imaging, like an emblem made out of gold and silicon, not living beings. Well, according to your lore, I'm not really alive. Isn't that right? I grip the strap of my purse, certain at any moment I'm going to wake up in a puddle of my own drool at my desk, having fallen into a fever dream. Undead beings, then. The fact remains. You injure me, Doctor. I am not a zombie or a virus. My physiology is nearly identical to yours, with a few notable differences, of course. His stare is beyond unsettling. I cast my gaze towards the parking lot and keep it there in case he's trying to hypnotize me. It's very late. I need to be getting home to my family. He pretends not to hear me and carries on. I understand there may be challenges. That's why I'm asking you. You're the only one who can rise to the task. Mr. Volkov, whomever or whatever you are, I suggest you learn to take no for an answer. The first time, not the second or third or fourth. I stride away, making sure to keep my head held high, projecting indifference. Oh, come now, he says, voice dropping to an impossibly low pitch. I could just compel you to do it, but I'd rather you choose. This is an exciting opportunity for us both. My legs grow heavy. Against my will? How is he doing that? I stop in my tracks, my heartbeat rising rapidly into my throat. A mysterious gravity pulls me back in his direction, like my subconscious has staged a coup. I swallow against the growing certainty that this is actually happening. Only a monster would fail to see the false dichotomy of his proposal. All right then. Fine. In the lab, I keep the overhead lights off. The light from the monitors will have to suffice. As soon as we're inside, Volkov makes a beeline for the oversized Faraday cage one of my students built as part of her thesis. like he knew it would be here, waiting for him. "What material is this lined with?" he asks through the open door. "Aluminum foil." "Ah, why? Worried it was silver?" The muscles of his jaw twitch. "No, that's another myth. Along with aversion to the crucifix, garlic, and wooden stakes. Nothing but superstitious nonsense, which, if I'm honest, I find rather insulting." "I see. It's going to take a while to get everything prepared." "I can wait," I hear him say. Except his lips didn't move. "Much like your ascetic monks, we are capable of remaining motionless for protracted periods of time. Even when speaking into my mind, he sounds like a robot." "Stop that. I don't like it. It's invasive." "Forgive me," he says for the millionth time. But at least it's out loud. I set to work calibrating the laser with the beam splitter. Then ensure the quantum camera is in position to catch all the action. Once the photons pass through the vacuum chamber and into the Faraday cage, they will entangle with Volkoff's atoms. Or won't, if there is indeed some sort of interference. Then the beam will be rejoined on the other side by a sensor. The high-precision spectrometer, along with the computer program on my laptop, will gather and interpret the data. You do understand that should we manage to get an image, it's going to be little more than a ghostly outline, right? Nothing like an actual photograph. When was the last time you saw your reflection, Doctor? In the bathroom, after class. I've never seen myself at all. Not in the surface of a lake, nor the glint of an eye, nor a darkened pane of glass. You cannot cast a shadow if you are never in the sun. I've commissioned sketches and paintings, of course, but it isn't the same, is it? I've never seen a real, tangible image of Sasha Volkov. He pauses. Because he's so still, I can't tell if he's battling with something or just going dormant. Can you imagine how that feels? To have so little confirmation of your very existence? I mean, I teach for a living. I shrug. I wonder how many people he's fed on. How many pints of blood he's drank. Thousands, he says, reading my thoughts again. Why is that relevant? I asked you not to do that. I can't help it. It's like asking me to ignore a blaring car alarm. If you want my help, then you can try. He doesn't move. Yet I feel his irritation growing, as though he's funneling his feelings directly into me. How many animals have you consumed in your lifetime? How many cows, chickens, fish? I'm vegan. Have been since 2006. Figured you would know that. The point is, you don't think of your food in those terms. Would you castigate a lion for feasting on a lamb? It is the way of things. We have been with you since the beginning, in the shade of your monuments, co-evolving. Nature designed us for a singular purpose, to cull the human herd. But as you can see, we're doing a piss-poor job of it. There's more of you than ever. In a surprising, potentially deceptive twist, I feel his emotions sink into self-pity. like he believes, ultimately, it is he who is the victim. Aren't your kind just humans who've been bitten and turned? Like Lestat and Lewis, his irritation blooms into full-blown disgust. Ridiculous. Can you turn a chimpanzee into a Homo sapiens? We reproduce the same way you mammals do, via fornication and pregnancy. We are warm-blooded, after all. It's just not our blood. It doesn't originate from our bone marrow. His anger cools a few degrees, and he adds, I have never been human, but I have lived. I have seen wonders and horrors you cannot begin to fathom. We have our own society, tucked away in the nooks and crannies of yours. Our own ambitions, too. Glad for the change of subject, I announce. We are ready to run our first trial. Please stop talking now and remain stationary. Volkov shuts the door and settles in. I click on the laser. The beam is split and sent into the cage. The hum of the machinery comforts me, brings to mind the many students who've used it to embark on their first voyage into the realm of the subatomic. The inevitable look of rapture when they finally see the particles they've spent so long reading about. In the midst of this rumination, I realize it's providing a kind of psychic cover. My subject is occupied, the grip of his influence weakened. I slip a ballpoint pen into the pocket of my blazer and pray he doesn't notice. We run 6 trials in total. The whole process takes a little over 2 hours. Once it's finished, I take a screenshot of the results and send it to the printer in my office. Volkov exits the cage and joins me, and once it's printed, I hand him the copy. He accepts it like it's his birth certificate. Like I said, pretty grainy, but it worked, he murmurs. His fingers trace over the grayscale form, caressing it. He is totally transfixed. I feel his heady mixture of elation and awe, the vanity that coils around his heart like a serpent. It's me, he whispers. You got what you came for. I need to get going now. My family will be worried. Volkov gives me the side eye. Surely you know by now that lying to me is pointless. I don't know what you mean. If I don't get home soon, You live alone, Doctor. Have since your breakup with Paul. You don't own any pets. Nothing that depends on you for its survival. Not so much as a cactus. Your younger sister calls to check up on you every so often, but not often enough. He sounds bored with the subject, preferring to pore over the printout with the intensity of an art appraiser. Is there anything else your system picked up on? I push aside the sense of betrayal and shake my head. The emissions analysis produced a string of errors. That would seem to confirm your hypothesis of some kind of interference, as no entanglement occurred in any of the 6 runs. But it would take a much more thorough experiment to isolate the actual cause of that interference. I see, he says, licking his chops. No matter. Still a tremendous success. Unable to help myself, I blurt out, "Are you going to kill me now?" He blanches. He's probably manipulating me, but I can feel the sting of hurt feelings in his chest. Of course not, Doctor. You have me all wrong. He clutches the printout in both hands and peers around the lab, taking it all in. I want you to study me further. Enlist the help of others, if need be. People we can trust to test my DNA and take blood samples. Think about it. If we can produce more results like this, you can publish them. These findings will fundamentally alter the world's understanding of biology and quantum mechanics. And what might that do for your career? When I don't say anything, he continues, it's time Homo sapiens learned they are not so alone as they imagine. It is time for us to evolve beyond the predator/prey dynamic and work together. We have to do something before your species gets us all killed with your utter disregard for the health of this planet. His eyes land on me. Despite his words, I feel sick to my stomach, because in his zeal, he's accidentally let slide a few of his memories. I see his first kill at just 4 years old, hunting with his father in the streets of Quebec. The elderly homeless man bundled up in a doorway, the pale, mottled flesh of his throat, the profound hunger, 1,000 times stronger than any I've ever experienced, an insatiable need. The man awakens and finds himself immobilized by Volkov's father. Fear pours out of him in a thick stench. His final thoughts are filled with deep regret. He's struggled so hard for so long, endured so much, and survived on so little, only to meet his end as some night creature's meal. And little Volkov loves it. Every drop of remorse, every pitiable whimper, every dream. He feeds on them along with the blood, gorges on the man's life force until he's full as a tick. And his father says simply, "Good." I see his most recent kill from earlier in the night. Stephanie Albright, the student who made the Faraday cage. He broke into her dorm and drained her in her sleep. She died and never saw it coming. Volkov looks at me now. He knows that I know. "Don't," he warns. I jam the ballpoint pen into his chest. My aim is perfect. It lodges between the ribs slightly, to the left of his sternum, and hits something hard, catching when he takes a breath. He growls at me. "I told you that wouldn't work." Then I'm soaring through the air. My body collides with the quantum camera, shattering it against the wall. I land in a heap on the floor, sparks raining down around me. Pain shoots up my spine, the wind knocked out of me. Volkov is on top of me in seconds, his weight like a 1,000-ton hydraulic press. There is no further possibility of fighting back. Do it then, I hiss at him. I will not be like the man in the streets. I will not go to my death without dignity. If he's going to eat me, let him taste nothing but pure hatred. Do it, you fucking parasite. He flinches again. I feel his emotions fan out in a kaleidoscope of rage, disappointment, and woe, beneath which is a childlike longing for my approval. He can't hide it now that I've seen it. His need for recognition that washes over me in waves. It's nearly as overwhelming as his hunger, an insecurity born of being raised with no mother. We could have done important work together, he says, voice choked with repudiation. Remember that, then he's gone. His presence peels away like a bad dream. The overhead lights turn on. Dr. Chande? Asks Officer Thompson. He's standing in the doorway, holding a nightstick. The school won't let him carry a gun. Everything okay in here? Shakily, I get to my feet and survey the damage to the lab. Other than the broken camera, all the equipment is intact. There's no sign Volkov was ever here, except for the image on my laptop. I'm okay, officer, I say, but we need to send the local police to Stephanie Albright's dorm room. There's been a homicide. Gripping his stick closer, Thompson asks, "How do you know that?" I stare at the screen, its spray pattern of photons in a vaguely humanoid shape. The world's first evidence of the supernatural. But it could be anything. No better than a UFO sighting or a blurry photograph of Bigfoot in the woods. I clear my throat and glance at the officer. In the wake of Volkov's influence, my emotions come flooding back with a vengeance. Hot tears spill down my face. I clear my throat and remind myself, no matter what I experience, I am a scientist. Call it a hunch. Doppel by Sean Glenn. Douglas Packard. Why is it that when we stare into terror, we often stare into our own eyes? I think it's the way we're wired. It's our thoughts. We have access to them, but nobody else. And just as it is impossible for foreign hands to unscrew our craniums and peer inside, so too do the minds of others remain unknowable to us. We're alarmed at minds different from our own. We fear those that could be similar. Because we don't have to imagine. We know the demons that surge even through normal brains, bat wings, and saber fangs next to the little voice that says we should give Grandma a call and then rake the leaves. There's a man in the upper right-hand corner of the mirror. His eyes are my own. Doom. It shudders through me. But how could that be? Russet leaves swirl down from above. They dance in the copper mid-autumn light. It's Saturday at the farmer's market. Children dashing gleefully through cool grass, fathers in pursuit, toddlers clamoring at their mothers for another bite of sugary muffin, cream cheese frosting from the last one, dolloped on the tip of their nose, Peruvian coffee and cheddar frittatas in the air, fall bounty everywhere, squash and sweet potatoes, and kale, carrots, beets, and pumpkins. So why does it feel like eternity on the chopping block? And where did my Doppel go? He was just there, with me in the mirror. But now he's gone, like a shadow that's changed in the sun. Like a memory I'm not sure is real. I put the sunglasses back on the rack, knick-knacky things to pick up and try on, but never to buy. The woman behind the booth sighs. More DNA on her merchandise. No money in her pocket. He's stopped to order a London fog. He tips big, rolls a $10 bill into a thin pipe before sliding it into the glass jar while the barista works. There are brownie sample bites next to the register, and he tries one. A young mom clips the heel of his boot accidentally with her stroller and apologizes profusely. Silver smile. It's no problem at all, he assures her. And what's her name? He asks, pointing to the interior of the carriage. Katie, she says, and blushes a little too red for her husband's liking. They hurry off, but she glances back, and that will certainly become an argument in the car. Thank you, darling. He collects the drink from the countertop and sips. He stuffs a folded-up napkin in his back pocket and heads for the parking lot, a leather bag the color of tobacco in his left hand. He's got on a tanned wax canvas jacket and denim trousers, black boots, buffed, something nice to preen in, and a hat, beaver pelt, or rabbit fur, I'm not sure. A modern cowboy that is the Doppel of me. Then something surprising happens. My feet begin to move towards the parking lot after my Doppel. For what? No reason I can grasp, nothing logical that would not fall outside the purview of lunacy. Who can justify following anyone without their knowing? That's stalking, and stalking by its nature belongs to the realm of the unwell, or the paranoid, or psychotic. But who could possibly come across their twin and let them go as easily as a penny on the pavement? Nobody. I know, because my Doppel is in front of me, and my feet are moving, and there is nothing I can do to stop them. My conscience is shrieking. Stop. Right now. Stop. Before it's too late. It's already too late. I can't stop. He pops the door of a black Chrysler wagon. He tosses the leather bag into the back seat and gets in. The engine roars to life, and he peels out of the lot. The sun glints in his driver's side mirror as he goes. I jog to my Forester and jam the key in the door. I jump in and fumble with the stick shift, spilling the stale coffee parked in the middle console cup holder. It joins the existing sludge, coffee and tea, and melted candies oozed from the wrappers that have fused the loose change into a single chunk. I roll the window down and turn the engine on. I rip out of the lot and discard the coffee that remains. He's a slick maneuver. In and out of traffic he weaves. Controlled, measured. Me after him, choppy and jagged, nearly clipping a sedan, barreling back into the same lane to avoid an F-150 blaring its horn. Possessed. A haunting tune on the radio, one I've never heard. Early this morning, when you knocked on my door, and I said, "Hello, Satan. I believe it is time to go." The Chrysler whips through the intersection. He flies under the traffic light, and it ticks yellow. My hands tighten on the wheel, knuckles whitened to chalk, my foot lead, pulverizing the accelerator. Me and the devil, walking side by side. Me and the devil, walking side by side. Who am I chasing? Him. Who is he? Me. Not me. He looks like me, but he is not me, and I am me, and I'm chasing him. My thoughts are whipping. Why can't I let him go? The sun has dipped below the hill. A chill creeps across the windshield. Darkness thickens. I give the man more distance in these residential blocks, so he remains unaware of me. His speed slows, and he crawls along a few more yards before halting entirely. The interior lights extinguish. I kill my engine at the stop sign a block away, scared to venture too close. A few minutes pass. Then the driver's side door opens, and he emerges. He gathers the leather bag and heads into the house, a bungalow with a converted attic that peeks out from a window above the entrance. When I was 7 years old, I saw a boy beaten so bad he had to be induced into a coma. My mother let me walk home from school as long as I called her at work, exactly at 3:30, to let her know I was home. Walking a few blocks in your own neighborhood wasn't considered negligence back then. There was an alleyway, hidden from the road, that abutted an abandoned property and an empty lot overgrown with weeds. My mother told me to avoid it, but I was a kid, and it was faster. So what was the harm? 4 boys encircled him, shoving him back and forth like a rag doll. They were older than me, maybe 13 or 14. The boy being terrorized was half their size and already roughed up quite a bit. He had a gash in his lip and a dark spot on his cheek that would certainly be a bruise tomorrow. A rip in his arm sleeve. They pushed and taunted, slapped and cackled. I hid behind the dumpster and cowered, unable to help, scared to retreat since they might see me. What happened next is seared into the unforgettable part of my brain The chief Neanderthal raised a rock over his head. A rock, not a stone. Something the size of a softball. He laughed as he brought it down on the back of the boy's skull. A sickening thud. The boy crumpled in a cloud of dirt. He didn't move. "What the fuck was that, you idiot?" The Neanderthal's friend raved and hit him in the chest. "You killed him!" The ogre reduced to a minnow. "I didn't mean to. No, no, he's not dead. I didn't hit him that hard. Brett, check if he's breathing." His eyes wide, as if peering into the future of his own conviction, his own juvenile sentence, family shame, and pariah label. The end of his life in front of him. Brett hovered over and listened. "He's breathing. Barely." The boy's chest was rising and falling a quarter of an inch. There was a small pool of blood in the dirt. "Let's get out of here." The boy who hit the Neanderthal gathered his bicycle. "Go home. All of you. Don't tell anyone anything." The boys fled, one after the other. When I was sure they'd gone, I slunk from the dumpster and tiptoed to the boy on the ground. He was breathing, barely. The back of his head was a bloody pulp. He was wearing a dress. That memory floods over me when I am frightened. And I am frightened because after a minute of hemming and hawing and asking for Christ's sakes, what the hell am I doing here? And putting the key in the ignition and taking it out and putting it back in again. A van has pulled around the corner and parked. Two men emerge, one in a loden raincoat, the other in a black wool sweater. They open the sliding door of the van and rifle through a black duffel bag. They close the bag up, slide the door shut, and head for the house. Before the man with the raincoat can conceal, I see it. I'm sure it's a pistol. 2 taps on the front door. They ring the doorbell. No answer. The man in the raincoat cracks it open. He slips his foot in and draws his weapon from his hip, slick so as to be concealed from the street. Then the two disappear. I am by myself, stunned. My brain is racing. What do I do? Who do I call? Should I just start laying on the horn? My nerves are boiling inside of me, my mind clouding over. Call the police? Tell them what? That I stalked a stranger I thought was my Doppel to a place I've never been, and there are 2 armed men after him in whose house I don't know? 5 minutes zoom by. I have to do something. I don't move. A gun barrel on my temple. Cold, freezing. My toes tingle beneath me. Weight and feeling gone away. 1 click, and I'm gone. I'm gonna get in. Shut the engine off. Slide over. Don't make a sound. I do as I'm told. I kill the engine and climb over the stick shift. He sits down and closes the door. My Doppel stares into my eyes. You with them? There's no saliva in my mouth. It's all evaporated. It comes out hoarse, quiet. I don't know who they are. I don't know who you are, his face stern. But you did follow me here. I nod. Yes. Why? My fingertips are itchy. The barrel is pointed at my heart because you look just like me. It sounds preposterous. Whatever I've stumbled upon, this is fate. A moth to a flame, and me to my Doppel. Caught up in something I don't know, don't understand, and couldn't have foreseen. Paying the price for a bill that is not my own. I can see myself crushed into the dirt. Now I'm wearing the dress, and they've scribbled epithets on my forehead and forearms. The usual offenders. And a crude penis on my cheek, angled downwards towards my busted lip. I touch my fingertips to the back of my skull. Cherry red. I believe you, my lips trembling. What? I ask. I don't know what else to say. I believe you, that you're not with them. He's silent for a moment, and then lowers the weapon. We do look exactly alike. A leaf helicopters onto the windshield. Who are they? Tsk. He sucks his teeth. You seen that leather bag I'm totin'? I nod. Yeah. He looks me back in the eye. Well, son, what if I was to tell you that bag contained a lot of money? Would that start to fill the picture in a bit? A furrowed brow and fire in his gaze. I nod again. Needless to say, people don't normally tote bags of cash for any good reason. There's usually extracurriculars that go on to acquire such a thing, ain't there? Well, I don't wish to tell you much about how I came to be in possession of that bag, but I will say that nobody got hurt, and the people we took it from got enough bags to fill up a rail car. You understand what I'm saying? Nodding is my new language. I have no idea what this Doppel is saying. No idea why there is a cowboy version of myself explaining the morality of thievery. He grunts and lights a cigarette. Well, there is a mistruth in there. Someone did get hurt. Used to be 4 of us that did this work. But Maggie, she caught a bullet we just couldn't caulk. Gushed and gushed and gushed, and then, finally, her face just went white. Gone. Like that. He snaps his fingers like catching a bullet is a period at the end of the sentence. Maggie had herself a daughter, paralyzed from the waist down in an accident when she was a young'un. Needed a lot of care, that girl. That's why Maggie did what she did, and she was good at it. That's why she deserved her share. That's why, now she's gone, her daughter deserves what her mama earned. The Doppel drags on the cigarette. The car is an ozone of tar. He rolls down the window and ashes the butt. My partners, they disagreed. He nods to the house. They're your partners? Were? Things didn't end well between us. As you can see, the lights in the house have been turned down. They're waiting. I need something from you, kid. This time, I don't nod. I need you to sneak through the back peek in and let me know where they are. There's a path through the neighbor's backyard that will conceal you. Leads all the way to the cellar doors, hidden by the brush. It's unlocked. They'd have no reason to be in the basement. They're waiting to ambush me upstairs. Slide in, text me where they are, then get out of there. He rips the cigarette that is now a fleck in his fingers. I'll do the rest. No. Fuck no. No way. I say these things, and then I lunge for the door. Fuck the car. Escape. Run. Figure it out later. Get to safety. Flee from this Doppel. Now the boy that was attacked is in a new dress, but this dress is a hospital gown, and there's gauze over his face and head left over from surgery. The green line of the heart monitor blips meekly. I can't say no. This man has my face, and I trust him. He's magnetic. I nod. I reach for the handle, and the Doppel brushes my shoulder. Take this, just in case. It's a revolver with a walnut grip. My feet move me. Around the block, and then through the neighbor's yard. Hugging the fence line, and then dashing to the cellar doors. I duck in and pull the lever closed. Quiet. So quiet. Breaths now could be catastrophic. My heart pulses in my esophagus, palms with lakes pooling in them. I tiptoe to the stairs and then inch my way up, one by one. No creaks, no breaths. I edge the cellar door open, my eye in the narrow slit, hidden by the darkness. One at the kitchen table, the other in a living room chair, facing the entrance. There's something wrong. Both of their heads are jerked upwards, twisted grotesquely to the ceiling. If I'm wrong, then I'm a dead man. But I'm not wrong. They are the dead men. I push the door open, and there is no rush to kill me. No commotion at all. I'm too afraid to flip the lights. I sneak over and immediately collapse to my knees, dry heaving. I force myself to keep the bile down, eyes watering like faucets. Twin crescents carved from ear to ear, the both of them. Exposed vertebrae, horror-filled eyes, like they'd seen the devil, nothing less. The devil. The front door explodes open, and officers pour in. There are red and blue flashing lights in my periphery. Melted candles of color, blurring my vision from the smoke bombs. Get on the fucking ground, now! Get down or you're dead! The boy that was attacked avoided brain death, but he lived with disability all his life. I never told my parents what I saw. I didn't tell anyone. I was too scared. On a lonely highway in the moonlight, the Doppel turns the radio knob. See? Don't see why. People dog me around. It must be that old evil spirit, so deep down in your ground. He turns the volume up, all the way up. Into the night, he shouts, I'm a dark mirror hound. VISE. News, real talk. The art of soul. swapping. New research proposes a radical solution for the estimated 13 million people who unwittingly lost their souls in last year's Black Friday mishap. While hell isn't offering refunds anytime soon, a soul swap isn't out of the question, says Sam Ackerman, sole author on the study and CEO of Exosouls. His paper, titled Devilish Details, a sparse Bayesian learning framework for enhancing the Exosouls algorithm, is published this week in Chaos, a non-linear journal of translational science. In it, Ackerman claims to have unraveled the 2-for-1 soul swap terms and conditions of the Philadelphia Screamer. He then introduces a machine learning model designed to identify likely victims who have yet to come forward, as well as predict the likelihood of unsold souls going to hell anyway. Ackerman goes on to suggest that when combined with his proprietary Exosouls algorithm, this novel framework can accurately pair last year's Black Friday victims with unsold hellbound souls, a finding that could give hope to millions. VISE's own Brett Love spoke with Ackerman while putting his updated soul swap theory to the test in real time. This interview has not been edited for clarity or length because hard-hitting journalism has no filters. Q&A with Brett Love and Sam Ackerman. Brett: Love: so, how about you tell me why I'm stuck in Philadelphia traffic with a conch shell in my front seat? Sam Ackerman: great, right to the point. So, that conch shell is there to help you hear the screams of the damned. Cupping your hands to your ears is also an option, but that's more prone to error. I don't know if I like the sound of that. No one does. Now, as for the Philadelphia traffic, we need a bit more context for that one. You remember last year when the real Burning Man, who screams eternal, or simply the Philadelphia Screamer. Most people just call him Phil now. Sure, let's call him Phil. Anyway, after Phil showed up last year, screaming and burning and chained to the William Penn statue atop Philadelphia's City Hall with that Black Friday offer flaming across his torso, people were understandably curious. So, of course, someone flies a drone up there to get a closer look at this giant chained to the Will Penn statue. And forgive me for the recap, but let's not forget how incredible that moment was and still is today. I mean, he's bound there, like Prometheus, except instead of eagles tearing out his liver only for it to regrow, there's a flaming message that burns to life again and again, letter by letter, from neck to navel. It's Hell's version of a flashing neon sign, and it says, 2 souls take the place of one in Black Friday's shadow. Make your wish known, and they shall pay the price. Right. And who can blame people for thinking it's your classic 2-for-1 Black Friday deal. Exactly. Last year's tragic miscalculation really just came down to otherwise honest folk simply hoping to cheat Satan on one day of the year with no consequences whatsoever. They thought they could make their wildest wish come true while sacrificing the souls of 2 of their worst enemies. When you think about it, the choice of holiday makes perfect sense too. Halloween is too on the nose, and Christmas is off limits. But Thanksgiving is, well, it's a gobbledygook of whitewashed genocide and glorified capitalism. So why wouldn't Satan want to piggyback on that? Just look, and you'll find him in the eyes of crazed consumers everywhere, in that Black Friday aftermath of filth left behind by the world's worst holiday. Wow. You really hate Thanksgiving. What about cranberry sauce? You'll cut out that last part, right? I don't want to turn off potential ExoSouls clients, sure. But you still haven't told me why I'm stuck in Philly traffic this Black Friday. Oh, right. So we already covered Phil, and the rest comes down to word origin. Before Black Friday found its way into the common parlance, it was used by Philadelphia traffic cops who were fed up with the crowds after Thanksgiving. This was back in the 1960s, so it all comes down to a simple misunderstanding. And hell probably wasn't trying to be nefarious here. I mean, they sent their screaming giant to Philadelphia, after all. They just thought that's where Black Friday applied. So they thought it was still 1960-something, even though Phil arrived in 2022. You're talking about relativity and time dilation, right? Yes. No. Not really. Listen, the theory of special relativity is a wonderful lens for examining the wonders of the universe, but it likely holds no meaning in hell. Perhaps whoever sent Phil is forced to experience a distorted sense of time passing on Earth to further highlight their own eternity in hell. A form of time torture, if you will. But that's just speculation, something that future research could explore. Regardless, my current research strongly suggests that hell's Black Friday deal only applies to Philadelphia traffic. What do you mean by suggests? I mean, I'm about to test your soul swap theory here, so you're sure, right? Please don't call it swap. I never mention that term once in my paper, and I don't know why. The media keeps throwing it out there. This isn't the movie Freaky Friday. We're not switching souls or bodies or anything like that. Say exchange if you must, but it's in the company name, ExoSouls, with exo meaning external and souls meaning plural. It's a simple 2-for-1 exchange, and at no point do you swap souls with anyone else. Now, do you have the ExoSouls app installed on your phone, Brett? Yeah, but I'm asking if you're sure your soul swap. Is your theory correct? Listen, there are 1,000 different researchers giving 1,000 different reasons for last year's Black Friday mishap. They blame it on wildly irresponsible statistics, poor reading skills, TikTok trends, rising obesity rates, or excess levels of tryptophan. But not one has demonstrated as high a degree of correlation as I have. I'm sure you've already read the paper, but let me offer a quick recap for those who haven't. We know for a fact that people who have turned their souls see themselves with their eyes sewn shut every time they look in a mirror, while most hell-bound people don't advertise that about themselves. We also know that there was a spike in self-reported eyes sewn shut sightings last year, likely due to outrage over misinterpreting Hell's Black Friday offer. Now, I used those reports as a starting point for constructing my sparse Bayesian learning framework while accounting for normal levels of dishonesty. In addition to identifying unreported victims, my model also identifies those with unsold souls who have high hell-bound risk. However, the truly surprising finding comes when looking at the distribution of likely victims. It's a fairly regular distribution. That is, it's standard for places other than the city of brotherly love. More specifically, for places devoid of Philly traffic. What I'm saying is high-traffic Philadelphia areas are almost blank spots on that distribution map of likely victims from last year's Black Friday mishap. That's where people were able to take advantage of Hell's 2-for-1 offer, because that's the area that corresponds to Hell's definition of Black Friday. It's an incredibly strong correlation. And that's why you're stuck in Philly traffic this Black Friday, Brett. Does that make sense? Yeah, I think so. Maybe you could give a quick refresher on correlation versus causation. No, we don't want to risk traffic clearing up on us. Just Google ice cream drowning deaths after the interview. So, without further ado, could you please open the ExoSouls app, Brett? First, I've got to ask, why are we doing this over the phone? Why wouldn't you agree to a face-to-face interview? Selling one's soul can't be done in company. If you open the app, I'll guide you through it. Okay, app is open. Hey, nice interface. Kind of like Twitter, with less hate speech. And I just looked in the rear view mirror. I can say with relief that the eyes of my reflection aren't sewn shut. Well, we haven't done anything yet. To verify, can you tell me how many active users you see in the ExoSouls app? I see 437. Now it's 443. Hang on. Shouldn't the numbers be doubling with the 2-for-1 soul swap? Good. I see those same numbers. And remember, it's not a swap. The numbers aren't doubling for a couple reasons. First, not everyone is selling their souls simultaneously. Second, a number of users regain their souls with each transaction. Obviously, the total number of souls sold must increase over time, which is great for ExoSouls in terms of active users. But wait, You said some users regain their souls? Could you explain? You know it's reversible, right? It's in my chaos paper. I even mention it in the abstract. Sure, yeah, I know. But it may be worth explaining for the sake of the interview. Okay, traffic is looking steady, so I'll give a quick example. Hell's Black Friday 2-for-1 offer requires 3 souls. 1 soul to take advantage of the offer, and 2 more souls to pay the price. So, let's call the souls A, B, and C, and say they're all stuck in Philadelphia traffic. Imagine that A makes its soul-selling wish, which marks souls B and C as bound for hell when their time on earth is done. Now, say B, whose soul has already been sold, still wants to take advantage of the 2-for-1 offer. Hell owns B, but Hell doesn't care about individuals. Hell's goal is to simply gather as many souls as possible, so it would gladly trade B for 2 unclaimed souls. Soul A is still unclaimed, but we need another unclaimed soul to make B's transaction possible. That's where Soul D comes in. If Souls A and D reach out to Hell and offer their souls in place of B's, Hell can't refuse. Sure, it loses a soul, but it also gains 2. And Hell must grant B a wish for the 2-to-1 offer to still hold true. Within this scenario, the first wish led to 2 hell-bound souls, while the second wish results in a total of 3 hell-bound souls within the group. You can see that the number didn't double in this instance. Of course, that number could easily keep doubling if everyone keeps making the selfish decision. But that's the beauty of the ExoSouls app. Its algorithm was already working to balance mutual and self-interests. But this latest enhancement connects Black Friday victims with likely hellbound to boost cooperation and user engagement. Does that answer your reversibility question, Brett? Yeah, and then some. But I mean that in a good way. You have me convinced. How do I get started? Let's see. The algorithm wants you to sell your soul in the traditional way first. That means no taking advantage of the 2-for-1 offer just yet. After that, ExoSouls will pair you with 2 unclaimed souls, so you can regain your soul. Wow, I hesitate to use the word luck, but this is a rare instance in my experience. At the risk of sounding redundant, I'd even go so far as to say ultra rare. Brett, you get to make 2 incredible, near back-to-back wishes and still keep your soul this Black Friday. Oh man, I haven't thought about what I want. What do I click to make it happen? Haha, you don't click anything. ExoSouls points you to the best possible outcome. But this next part is low-tech, a tried-and-true method as old as mankind itself. First, what you want to do is pick up that conch shell from the passenger seat and hold it to your ear. Then, I want you to listen for the screams of the damned, okay? I've got you on speakerphone, and the conch shell to my ear. Do you hear the screams yet, Brett? Maybe. But that could just be Phil, on top of City Hall. I think he's nearby. Forget about Phil. Think about the worst moment of your life. Relive it. Imagine that conch shell is a calcified ear that can hear your innermost thoughts. Whoa, I hear it. Jesus Christ. Keep that shell to you ear, Brett. Now tell me, how does traffic look? Oh God. Focus, Brett. How's traffic? Okay. It's nearly at a standstill. Good. Now, I want you to close your eyes nearly all the way until you're looking through your eyelashes. Then, stare at your reflection in the rear view mirror. Are you doing it? Yes. But I don't like this anymore. Don't stop. You're nearly there. Promise your soul for your heart's desire. I don't know what I want. Just wish for the first thing on your mind. There are no wrong answers here, Brett. If it's in hell's power to grant it, you'll get your wish. Oh man, I did it. The shell is silent and... oh God, that's awful. What do you see? I see my own eyes sewn shut in the mirror. How is that possible? Yeah, no one ever gets used to it. But the good news is I'm working on augmented reality glasses to add eyes to mirrors for those who've sold their souls. And the even better news is you've managed to successfully sell your soul. Now, exosouls should find a pair of unclaimed souls for you soon here. We're up to 643 active users, so maybe some are right next to you in traffic while we wait. And if you don't mind me asking, what was your wish? Well, it's kind of silly, but it was the first thing that came to mind. I wished for the traffic to clear up, and it's already moving at normal speed. Amazing. Although I guess I kind of wasted my first wish. You did a lot more than that. Do you somehow not understand words? For Christ's sake. You asked me twice why you were stuck in Philadelphia traffic. Shit. Can we try again next year? Well, what other option does everyone else have? Except for you, Brett. Sorry, but the ExoSoul's algorithm has banned you from the app. Good luck and goodbye, cabin fever. Then the storm broke and was replaced the next morning with a frozen 1880s blue sky. The kind when after the clouds clear, the world shuts down with a blinding but heartless sun. No wind and dead quiet. Jason and Bill huddled around the cabin's only wood burner. Above them, the pine timbers groaned and complained with the weight of the storm's snow, over 20 feet on the roof. But what dropped their stomach into a mine shaft was the sharp crack about every 10 minutes, a sound like a double barrel going off in the rafters. The cold clenched down on the roof beams. The cabin held in a merciless, ice-cold fist. It was not unknown for a collapsed cabin to be found in the spring, the dead still frozen under the rubble, a beast with a blood-froze beard. Bill mumbled out loud to himself, feeding logs to the wood burner. He'd almost lost Jason the night before. The storm outside had been ghost white and howling a blow. He had worried Jason would lose the rope he'd strung to the outhouse, 60 feet from the cabin. He knew from experience, men lose their way, only to be found in the spring thaw. So when Jason had slammed the pine door and come back in, shaking and terrified, saying he barely made it back, and talking about his lungs seared out from the cold, he had sighed in relief. But when he'd calmed down later, Jason said, "There's something out there, Bill. I could feel it looking at me. I swear I saw eyes in the dark, red eyes, and a growl." Provisions were low, so for supper, the only meal that day, Bill dished out steaming black beans, only a sourdough biscuit on the side. Bill, chicken. Bill, they called him, liked to talk when he was serving food, and fancied himself a philosopher, a cowboy philosopher, although his ranching days were well over. He was 50, which is old in the mountains, but a lot about Bill was still adventurous with his red kerchief, leather chaps he wore like skin, and his Stetson, which he rarely took off. As he dished out the food, he declared, "The Shoshone have 100 words for snow, Jason. Snow that grows out of the ground. A hoary frost sparkling with tiny ice fingers reaching for the sun. Snow that forms a crust when the top melts some and then freezes back up, which might break your leg in a post hole. And snow that lives in the worst cold and wraps itself in the body of a wolf and steals your soul. Like now. Bill, it's 60 below, and I don't feel much like talking about the cold." "I understand, son," Bill said, and took Jason's empty tin plate away. Later that night, Bill sat by the burner, the flame reflected on his weathered face, high cheekbones, and full lips. A handsome man, his wife had said. He stroked the scar from the edge of his eye to the back of his chin. A scuffle with Texas rough Civil War vets in '72, calling him half-breed in the street. But I know this cold is different, he thought. It's tougher with Jason. The fire held his eyes on the yellow-blue flame for a long while, the wood humming and spitting, the smoke smelling of pine sap. "Did you swear you wouldn't take on caring about another?" he asked himself. "Did you?" "Yes. After the sickness, I did. And now you're caring about this Jason. And that's why you're scared? You're getting hot." Bill kept feeding the fire, but couldn't help thinking about death. For him, a white wolf in his dreams, with a blooded snout, a red-eyed beast scratching to get in. The next morning, The Olsen party beat on the door. Finding the cabin must have taken some luck. Dick Olsen, his wife Martha, their daughter Susan, and their young boy, Joey. They filled the cabin once inside. Mr. Olsen was near done. Living with his feet black from the frostbite, he could still hobble, but Bill had him put 1 foot in cold water. It began bleeding, and he wrapped it up. Jason asked Bill about the feet in the kitchen, and Bill talked low, so the party wouldn't hear. You can tell from his sagging eyes the West has whipped him, Jason. If you notice, his eyeballs are skittering like a mare beat too much. Once broke like that, too broke, a horse won't come back to anything worth working. Mr. Olsen has the no blinks, and I've seen it in the mines. You best stay clear when you run up on a man like that. Next thing you know, you'll be staring too far away yourself. Their daughter, Susan, did not have the no blinks, Jason thought. Just with a sneak peek, he could see she was the most beautiful creature he'd ever put eyes on. Once she unwrapped from the weather, her long hair alone shone like some kind of goddess, he guessed. The blonde let loose, soft and shimmering. She made him think of a gazelle he saw once up in the high country. It stood with its white belly and golden hide, then ran off as light as air. The god's creature moved like grace itself, but Susan, just sitting there, was better. No, sir. You cannot chance more than a sneak peek when you run into a sight like that. He kept his eyes on the burner and was glad when the Olsen party carved out a private area off to the side, blankets making a wall of sorts. Bill made some supper for all 6, including himself. The last of the salt ham, hardtack, and black beans. Everyone silent around the pine table. Bill didn't talk much around strangers at first. Some said likely due to him being a half-Bannock Indian. But once the diners settled in, the boy Joey couldn't get enough and threw questions at Bill like a scattergun. How long you been up here? Why do they call you Chicken Bill? And where'd you get that scar on your cheek? Bill gave short answers, but his eyes smiled, talking to the boy. He explained the Galena cabin was the way station for the Stanley to Ketchum route, an overnight midpoint on the 60-mile run. Jason was a postal officer and would ski the 60 miles on 8-foot board skis, the trail too narrow for a wagon and too steep for a horse. Jason listened in, but also knew Bill had lost both his wife and son to cholera and sparked up around children. The boy asked, "Why don't you wear a gun?" Bill said, "I'm done with guns, young man. Guns mostly don't ever work out like you expect." Joey's eyes grew into silver dollars. "Did you ever kill anybody?" The table went quiet, and Bill said, "Excuse me. Jason and I have to clean up. Come on, Jason." As he rose, his eyes were glistening, and Jason remembered Bill didn't like to talk about guns and killing. Bill and Jason were in the kitchen when Mr. Olson came limping in. He was dodging around like he had something to say, but couldn't. Finally, he said, "Joe's mother feels..." "Well, don't talk to our son," she says. Bill said, "Sure, no problem." He took a deep breath and let it out. "You'll always be an outsider, looked at as an outcast by your own people, a savage Indian by the other." Jason felt bad for Bill, but the truth was, he thought there was nothing he could do about it anyway. The next day, the Dawson brothers pounded on the door. After coming in, they spread out like it was natural to position themselves for a gunfight. The one in the middle was Cliff, the oldest brother. He scanned the room, his eyes not missing a thing, running over Jason and Bill like bacon, greasy fingers, assessing if they were a threat. He then stopped on Mrs. Olson. "You get lost out of Pocatello? Standing me up in Ketchum seem right to you?" Slumped down at the table like a man giving up, Mr. Olson stared at his foot wrapped in the bloody rag. He glanced at his wife, but she saddled up to Cliff, put her face close to his, and with a sweet voice Jason hadn't heard before, brushed her lips up against his right ear. "I'd come back for you, Cliff. You know that." Cliff shoved her off rough and put his head back and laughed. A mean sound, more coyote bark than laugh. He said, "I guess I know when I been had, you viper." He nodded to Mr. Olson at the table. "Sorry, Dick. You can have her back now." Mrs. Olson shot a look at her husband. He was slumped at the table, his hands shaking while covering his face, his elbows on the yellow pine planks. The smaller brother came out from behind the blankets. He threw a black carpetbag down on the floor. Cliff kneeled and opened it up. The bag was full of money, bundles of cash. Mr. Olson looked up. His eyes misted, yellow-red. "Our future Martha. You wanted Oregon. There it lies. You didn't count on the snow." And looking at his feet, "Much less this damn freeze." Grabbing the bloody rag off his dead foot, he threw it at his wife, which she knocked away just before it hit her face. Mrs. Olson hesitated, then lunged toward her husband, her eyes harsh, her face tight. With a harsh whisper, she spit each word like venom. "Yes, the storm and the damn freeze, you fool. You're an old fool, the worst kind. You know that? You only see what you want." Mr. Olson glared back at her, but she stared him down. Cliff packed up the bag and threw it to the third brother near the window, then turned to Mrs. Olson. He pointed his gloved finger at her and narrowed his eyes, laughing through his sneer. "It's true," he He don't see you, Martha, but I do." And then he cocked his face at Mr. Olson like he remembered something. "But being Indian agent at Pocatello has its advantages for you and Martha, don't it, Dick? I guess the tribes will miss it none, not knowing it was theirs to begin with." Mr. Olson reared up at the table, wincing when he stood on his bare black foot. His face twisted up like being covered with fire. He stumbled out a derringer from his inside vest pocket and aimed it at Cliff. But Cliff was fast, quick with his gun. In the tight cabin, the shot rang out like the screaming wrath of God. Mr. Olson, thrown near off both feet, his back smacking hard against the pine wall, with his chest a bloody hole, he slid to the floor, and his boy Joey ran to the body, and Susan held her brother. The son, daughter, and dead man lying together. The Dawson men soon grouped everyone to the side of the cabin, while one brother held a gun. They searched for weapons and collected both the derringer and a shotgun found in the kitchen. The smaller brother filled a sack with the remaining food. Mrs. Olson grabbed Cliff's arm, holding him from turning away, and said, "Please forgive me, baby." Cliff threw her off and laughed, shoving her toward the table. Leaning into the table, Mrs. Olson stayed dead still as she stared at the wall. Cliff, behind her, spoke firm, like he wanted the pain to sink in. "You ain't worth much. Hardly worth feeding Martha. But I'll be taking you, the boy, and especially Susan, up north to the renegades. They'll make use of you in the camps, but your daughter and boy Martha, they'll bring prime dollar." Mrs. Olson's hands gripped white on the table. The other two brothers drew their guns after hearing Cliff. In a short time, Jason and Bill stood at the cabin door, while mounted up in front of them in the bright sun and the dry pine air were the three brothers, but also Mrs. Olson, the boy Joey, and Susan on the last remaining horses, all tied to saddle horns. The Dawson brothers turned and broke trail, the snow pushing up above the horses' bellies, the hooves rising high to punch through the clean white, the pine hanging heavy with fresh snow. They were soon out of sight. Without a word, Bill pushed through the deep snow to the shed. He dragged the door open, hitting it with his shoulder, finally making his way in. After the sound of rummaging, he came out. Strapped on his side was a Colt .45 rig, low on his hip, outlaw style. He said, "I got the weapon, but not the means. We need a horse, Jason." The shed door was still open, and Jason stuck his head in. "You're right, we don't have a horse. I've got an idea, though, for something else." Jason and Bill took 2 pairs of board skis and pushed through the snow 100 yards to the top of Galena Ridge. The near cliff fell off the side of the mountain. If they could ski it, and Jason couldn't guess how. But if they could, they'd cut off the Dawsons 2 miles away, where they came out the bottom of the switchbacks. They had to take the chance. Jason strapped both himself and Bill into the skis where they needed to drop off. Bill stared off the edge, wide-eyed. He grabbed Jason's arm, nervous as all get out. Jason had never seen him panicked like that, gaping over the edge like a little boy. He choked it out. "I need to tell you. I could had your postman job, Jason, but it required me to ski. Turned it down, and hell. That's why they started calling me Chicken Bill." Jason laughed to look at him. "Hell yourself, Bill. No chicken about it. It ain't nothing," he lied. "Let's go." They pushed off. The skis fell through air, and Jason sidestepped to turn as he hit the bank. The snow flowed like a heaven's mist over their heads. Jason's skis swooping back and forth, a fine curve on the fresh snow, the cold flakes stinging his face. They weren't skiing, but flying. Bill just closed his eyes and took a straight shot. Together, they leveled out on the basin. The riders slowly came out of the trees. The horses were struggling to lift their hooves in the deep snow, tired and pushed too hard. The younger brother was the first to notice Bill standing 50 yards ahead. Jason could tell Cliff, then saw Bill also, and was moving in position, turning side saddle so he could draw. As Cliff angled, Bill crouched in the snow. And when the two brothers pulled their sidearms, Bill drew in response, his gun light in his hand, like he was flicking his finger. He knocked the two younger brothers off their horses like nothing, ducks in a chute. Bill then took aim at Cliff with both hands, holding the revolver for the distance, but stopped. Mrs. Olson's horse crossed the path. The more Bill moved to get an aim, the more Mrs. Olson got in the way. "Shoot, damn it. Just shoot." Bill blew air, exasperated. He raised his gun straight up and fired into the sky. This was the break Cliff was looking for. He leaned out, drew on Bill, and took him down with a blast of 3 shots. Cliff could shoot. Bill fell in front of Jason in the cold. As death approached, Bill didn't feel scared, but settled. A peace came over him. "But you're leaving Jason," he thought. "You need to tell him before you go." Leaning close, Jason said, "What, Bill? What is it?" He knew Bill was dying. "You can do it, Jason. You're a far better man than you think, son." Bill then closed his eyes. A warmth moved over Jason that he couldn't explain. He suddenly realized Bill was the closest thing to a father he'd ever had, and it was right then. Jason knew he was done with "can't do anything about it anyway," and it was right then he was done with the holding back, and he had to try. Feeling the heavy weight of the cold steel Colt in his hand, he stood up slowly. and held the weapon down by his side. Cliff flanked him, staying side-saddled, with a broad grin on his face in the bright cold, moving to get the sun behind him. "Give it a try, boy," he said, and holstered his weapon. "When you're ready." And he angled his horse as he moved, his hand hovering on the gun handle. Jason lifted his arm, and Cliff's gun exploded in his hand. Jason never saw him draw. He was so fast. The slug hit him in the shoulder and threw Jason's aim. He fell to the ground, and Cliff was soon above him, dismounted, and kicking the colt away. Jason looked down Cliff's gun barrel and felt his chest pounding. He knew the bullet was coming, and his only thought was hoping it didn't hurt. A quick ending, a snarling cut the cold air before Jason saw a white-shaped animal leap for Cliff, who fought the snapping jaws while he writhed on the snow, holding the white, wolf-like thing off his face. Cliff then screamed in terror. The animal slashed at him and dug in, ripping his throat out, then stuck its snout into the wound. Jason turned away, thinking he was next, but soon caught sight of the wolf flashing in the trees. An albino, pure white. He lost sight of the animal in the green pine, the needles covered in ice, crystals on the trees.